It's good, y'all. Welcome back to Niner Wire. I'm your host, Sam, and today we are back for more pregame analysis. Week 14, going up against Washington, the second game in Arizona for us on the season at technically home, but should be a very fun game. We're here to break it down to you, give you everything about this game, and for this, I have a very special guest today, the co-host of Blake and Vish Sports, Vish Kumaran, right here. Vish, how you doing today, man?
I'm good. How are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to get into it. Should be a very fun week for both teams. Should be a very fun game to watch. But anyways, guys, normal pregame analysis. We're going to break it all down. Keys of the game, key players, score prediction, you name it. We got it all here. And let's just get right into it. But before we do, make sure to follow me on Twitter at NinerWireSam. My Instagram's at NinerWire_YT. I post a lot of stuff there, so make sure to follow me there. If you're watching on Twitter, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, NinerWire. That's going to be in the top left corner on your screen right there, as you see by this new background, which I made. So make sure to follow me on all those places. Also, got to make sure to follow Vish on Twitter at Vish Kumaran, and also subscribe to Blake and Vish Sports. He's also on a few episodes with Grant Cohn every week, so make sure to subscribe to the Cohn Zone as well. Check that out. Check all of Vish's stuff out. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, you name it, make sure to leave them in the live chat below. I already see we got a few, so what's up to everyone watching right now? And without further ado, let's get right into it. So I want to start off with you, Vish. You got any opening thoughts on this game? Anything to talk about? Anything you want to bring up real quick before we get into it?
Yeah, first, Sam, thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely,
it's a pleasure to come on with you. And then second, honestly, this is as big a must-win as there is for the 49ers. I mean, if we're talking, like, there's two types of 49ers fans right now. The ones that are hoping they lose, well, not hoping they lose, but kind of okay with them losing and waiting on the draft and thinking about which quarterback they like. And then you got the other set of fans that are still gunning for the playoffs. So if you're the set of fans that's still gunning for the playoffs, this is the game that they have to win.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is a must-win game all across the board. And personally, I don't get the fans that say, like, oh, the Niners should lose to get a better draft position. You play football to win the game, as Herm Edwards famously said. And, I mean, I just don't get, like, why someone wants to lose a game to get a better draft position. So be it. But Kyle Shanahan's not going to do that. The players on the team are not going to do that. They're there to make money, to get their team on the map, to get their players on the map, I should say, and just ball out and win games. Have fun on the football field. That's what you do. When you win, you have fun. So, yeah, man, they're definitely going to win this game. Or not. I'm not saying they're going to win this game, but they're definitely going to go out, try to win this game. And it's going to be very interesting. Should be a very competitive game. So, yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into it. Let's start with the 49ers offense, as I usually always do. And in my opinion, my 49ers offensive key of the game is the biggest key of the game for all the teams in this one, and that's pass protection. And you look at that Washington defensive line. Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen. I believe Kerrigan's is Kerrigan on IR, or am I thinking of someone else on that team?
I think Kerrigan is on IR.
He is on IR. Okay. But anyways, man, the Washington D-line is legit one way or another, whatever way you want to put it. So, I mean, pass protection is going to be so crucial in this game, especially the Niners have struggled with pass protection the past few games, and mainly even this entire season, I'd say. Especially, you look at that right side of that offensive line, man. You got Mike McGlinchey getting pancaked every damn time. You got the right guard just being an absolute carousel over there. It's getting ridiculous at this point. And I know every week, spoiler alert, Mike McGlinchey, once again, on my offensive key players to this game. But, I mean, this offensive line just has to step it up. No doubt about it, man. And, I mean, it's that simple. If they're not going to protect their quarterback, Nick Mullins, they're going to lose this game. Because, I mean, pass pressure has really killed this team all year. When there's been a lot of pass pressure, we have not been able to succeed at all, or it's been a very close game like it was against the Rams. So, yeah, pass protection, definitely my biggest key of the game for this offense.
Yeah, first, Ryan Kerrigan is not on IR. He's playing the guy that's on IR.
So that's even worse for us, man.
Right, Matt Ioannidis is the guy on IR. So
gotcha.
It's give or take. But either way, I agree with you to an extent that pass protection is a key. The problem is that there's nobody in the NFL that's going to block those four guys up front for Washington. And to me, the best player on that front four is not Chase Young. It's Jonathan Allen. I think he's been one of the most underrated players in the NFL. He's a stud. He's an absolutely dominant defensive tackle. Deron Payne is good against the run. And for that reason, I just don't think the Niners are going to be able to block him. Like, we can say that McGlinchey and Colton McKivitz have to play better, but they only have a capacity of being able to block these guys to a point. To me, the key for the 49ers offense is run the football. It starts with the run game, and it starts with window dressing in the run game, and that goes to Kyle Shanahan. The key to this game to me is Deebo Samuel. Get Deebo Samuel in motion, and he's got to be moving, and the Niners have to challenge the Washington Redskins horizontally. You can't let these pass rushers pin their ears back and take one-on-one reps against Mike McGlinchey and Colton McKivitz and Daniel Brunskill in center. The key is going to be to mess with their eyes. Do they think it's run? Do they think it's pass? Because if the Niners get into a drop-back pass situation, they're not going to win this game, regardless of how well their offensive line plays.
Yeah, for sure. And you bring up the run game, and that would be my offense key to the game if it weren't for pass protection. But let's talk about the run game a little bit, because the Niners always have had a good run game with that mind of Kyle Shanahan in there. He can really work with any running back he wants. And the run blocking on this team has been it's been pretty good so far. I mean, I know we all like to give McGlinchey so much shit for everything he's done this year, but his run blocking ability has gone pretty much unnoticed. He's still a great run blocker on this team. And people definitely need to take note of that. And that definitely helps their offense significantly. So, run blocking just run game in general, that could be a very good key to this game, in my opinion. And Deebo Samuel, I like how you bring that up right there, because he is the most versatile guy on this offense right now. And he probably will be next year in the years to come. And if they can run through him, use a lot of tricks through him, which I always want to see a bit more. They did do that against Buffalo last week. They mainly went through Ayuk. I think you got to use Deebo Samuel a bit more. Just get him open in run situations, pass situations, you name it. Just use him like your Swiss Army knife and just get him open, do whatever the hell you want with him, and it's going to set up a recipe for success right there. Not to mention the run game. I mean, it has been pretty good with Mostert, Wilson. I know it's been a bit lackluster lately, and I think that's definitely because of the departure of Kittle. So another guy to look out for, Ross Dwelly. I know he had a great week last week against Buffalo, but if he can step it up even more and get that run game going even more, then that's just going to be huge for this team. So you make a great point with that run blocking right there.
You know, I actually disagree with you there. The thing with Buffalo to me with Deebo Samuel was that Buffalo was selling out to not give up contain on the edge. So they were giving the Niners a lot of heavy fronts and making sure that the Niners run everything inside. If you look at their best runs in that game, whether it was Jeff Wilson or Mostert, it was a lot of trap plays inside the tackles. It wasn't horizontal. So Buffalo did a really good job with their defense, and Sean McDermott's a really creative defensive coordinator, and they did an excellent job doing that. I don't think Washington, their style of defense is to play that way. They want to rush four and play zone defense behind them and get depth and keep everything in front of them and let their pass rushers win the game. That means the Niners are going to have a chance to be able to run the football. I think Carolina last year,
absolutely.
Carolina had that terrific pass rush. They were 5-2, and the Niners obliterated them. They had Brian Burns, who was playing awesome. Gerald McCoy was playing very well, and the Niners just obliterated them. I don't think the Niners will be able to run the ball like that, but this is the game that they have to be able to run the ball. It's going to be about the run game. I don't think there's anything else because the other thing for me with the run game is that it's going to be a game situation. I don't think that the football team's offense is going to be able to score on the 49ers defense, which means that situation will allow them to run the ball all game. And that means it's going to be about sticking with the run and making sure you get to the edge, because if they can control the edge the way they did against New England, they can win this game comfortably.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely with you. And your point about Buffalo, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying like it's Deebo's fault or anything, or not the play calling fault, but I definitely think this week I'm really excited to see that Deebo Samuel can be used a bit more than he was last week and a few weeks prior. I mean, yes, he was used all the time in the Rams game. I said the offense was going to run through him, which it did. And I think this is another game where it could really run through Deebo Samuel, get a lot of those runs, as you said, kind of like the Carolina game. It could look something very much like that. So I think that's definitely very interesting to watch out for, the run game on this 49ers offense. But there's going to be a lot of key pieces to this in order for the run game to succeed. So I'm definitely with you on that. So, yeah, for sure. You got anything else about any offensive key?
Yeah, my other key for this game would have to be with the 49ers. It's protect the football. Nick Mullins has moments of good plays, but my biggest problem with Nick Mullins is when you're a physically limited player like he is, you can't turn the ball over at the rate he turns the ball over. Every game, it feels like he throws 4 or 5 balls that should be interceptions that aren't interceptions or get dropped, and then he throws one that is an interception. There's too much of that. To me, this game is going to be grinded out. It's going to be low scoring. Both these defenses are going to play their butts off. And in that kind of game, Alex Smith isn't going to turn the ball over. That means Nick Mullins, whatever you do, you can't turn the ball over in this game.
Yeah, for sure. I know we talked about this last week on my pregame show with a few other guys where turnovers are always going to be key and they're always going to kill you. And I mean, I usually don't like to say turn the ball over as my key because I feel like that's kind of just an obvious one. But I mean, great job for bringing that up because that is definitely a key of the game. And I don't want to undermine that whatsoever. You cannot turn the ball over and you have to limit turnovers. I know we got some key turnovers in the red zone last game against Buffalo, which just absolutely killed us, especially that goal line stand. I think we threw a pick in the end zone. I forget where the other pick was. I know there was one to Trey White, which was in the end zone. There was another one. I forget.
It was middle of the field.
Middle of the field. Okay. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, we turned the ball over twice in the red zone, turnover downs and a pick. You can't have that happen, especially against a team like Washington with, in my opinion, one of the best defensive fronts in football. And when you have a good defensive front, your defense is going to succeed. So, I mean, you have to get going on that defense early. So, yeah, I'm totally with you on that for sure. Speaking of the Washington defense and kind of adding on to what we were talking about, the running, let's go into the Washington defensive key of the game, which is, in my opinion, stopping the run. And I really did want to put this for the Niners offensive key, as I said earlier. But in my opinion, pass protection was a bit of a bigger need, so that's why I went with that. So I want to emphasize it even more. Let's talk about this on the Washington defensive side. And I know
I had one more.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
For the 49ers, and that's stay ahead of the sticks. Don't get into third down. So that means every first and second down, it has to be positive. Holding penalties in this game, if you get into 2nd and 20, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 10, you're not going to convert them against that rush, which goes into your key with the pass protection. Niners offense has to stay ahead of the sticks.
Yeah, absolutely. You make a great point there. They definitely have to really just get ahead whenever they can. And I know I was on a podcast last night talking about this with a few guys, but the hot starts, man, and just getting ahead early. I mean, we kind of talked about this. If the Niners win the toss, they're going to receive because they want to get that hot start early. They've been doing that for the past few games, and I definitely think it's going to be very interesting to see what they do. Can they get that hot start early? They kind of did last game. They just got the turnover on downs in the goal line on that first offensive drive. So it's going to be very interesting to see. So yeah, man, I'm totally with you on that. So you got anything else for that?
No, I'm good. Let's go to the
All right, perfect. That sounds good. Let's move on to the Washington defense right now. And as I was just saying, it's stopping the run, in my opinion. And as I said earlier, I mean, I just want to emphasize it a bit more because I know I talked about pass protection for my offensive key. We went on a long discussion about stopping the run for Vish's offensive key. And let's talk about it even more on the Washington defense key because this is a major key of the game as well. And I mean, to your credit, Vish, I definitely think the Niners are going to run a lot and try to execute that key. So Washington is going to have a lot up their hands trying to stop that key and getting the Niners just maybe just force them to pass the ball a bit more rather than run. That's what they're really going to be going for right there. And I know Mullins had a decent game last time, but let's be real. Nick Mullins is a very inconsistent quarterback. And I as I said every week, are we getting Big Dick Nick? Are we getting Little Dick Nick? I don't know. It's always up in the air every week. So, I mean, and you really can't trust that. Last week he did pretty well, but this week it could be another story. We need to see what happens with Nick Mullins, and it's always just such a risk going in with an inconsistent quarterback because you don't know what you're going to expect, and the game plan may just shift completely in the wrong direction if that quarterback just completely flops. So Nick Mullins, definitely, yes, he's one of my key players, obviously, but if he's not succeeding, you always have to have that contingency plan in the run game. And in my opinion, like the run game is going to be huge as well because in my opinion, Washington has the better pass rush than the run rush on the front line. So if Washington is able to halt this run game, then they're probably going to win this game because the Niners are going to have to rely on the pass game. It's going to be very hard. Washington has a very good pass D. So if Washington can just stop this Niners rushing game, which can be lethal at times, let's be real, Kyle Shanahan, as I just said, one of the best offensive-minded coaches in the league, best run-minded coaches. He can really work with any running back he wants. If they can stop Kyle Shanahan in that run game, they're probably going to win this game.
Yeah, that's pretty much right on. And to the keys of stopping this run game, to me, the first thing is going to be that Washington has to play with great eye discipline, which means that there's going to be a lot of things there's going to be a lot of moving parts pre-snap. Deebo Samuel is going to go in motion a lot. They've got to just find the football and do their job on defense because Kyle Shanahan's going to mess with their keys a lot. My other thing for them stopping the run is that Daron Payne has got to have a huge game in penetrating. The thing that I've noticed with the Niners run game is you've got lighter offensive linemen because Kyle Shanahan wants to move them around and create angles for different guys to make different blocks on different people. The thing that the Niners struggle with is if you have big people that just get up the field. Those are the guys that really screw up the run game for the Niners.
Absolutely.
If you look at the Giants, week 3, Nick Mullins played out of his mind, but the Giants did an excellent job stopping that run game. And that's because Patrick Graham uses multiple fronts, but it's also because Dexter Lawrence, Dalvin Tomlinson, BJ Hill,
Ballers.
Leonard Williams, they're all really big and they're very tough to move in the run game. The Chiefs in the Super Bowl, they did a good job against the Niners run game. And that was because, again, Spagnuolo uses multiple fronts and shows a lot of different things, but they have like 7 290-pound guys who are very big and difficult to move in the run game. Like if you take a team that they had success against, Green Bay has no size. If you don't have size, the Niners will run all over you. So the key is going to be, to me, that Daron Payne is going to have to dominate up front and get penetration. He's going to have to get up the field and really screw up a lot of run plays for Washington to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. I didn't even really notice like the big guys making that big of an impact. I mean, that just goes to show your knowledge of the game right there. But I mean, yeah, you're definitely right about that. And Jonathan Allen, in my opinion, is probably the better of those defensive tackles right there.
He's the best.
If they can have, easily. And if you're going to have 2 of those guys just balling out, then it's game over for this Niners D. Right. Niners rushing game, I should say. And the Washington D is easily just going to take over this game, get ahead, get to the quarterback, and just obliterate Nick Mullins. As like Bean says right here, the Washington D line versus the Niners offensive line equals Mullins dead. And that could very much happen, especially if the big guys are in the way, stopping the run. Then you got to go to the pass game. It's just a huge ripple effect right there. With everything. It's just a massive ripple effect, and you just can't allow that to happen because, I mean, once the dominoes fall, everything's just going to fall over. Washington's going to obliterate us. That's simple.
And then my other key with that is that when they do get rushes, going off what Bean said, Nick Mullins is going to have to move. This is a problem with the Niners quarterbacks, especially this year. They exacerbate how the offensive line looks because they can't move off a platform. Jimmy Garoppolo was pretty good at it last year where he moved, he kind of shimmied away and threw off different platforms, and that makes your line look better. But offensive line play is really bad across the NFL. I say this on every little podcast I do. It's bad. There's like 3 good offensive lines. There's There's Cleveland, there's New Orleans, there's maybe Buffalo, there's Indianapolis. But after that, everybody's got a bad offensive line. Defensive lines dominate these offensive lines. But if your quarterback has good pocket presence and can navigate muddy pockets well, then you're going to have no problem throwing the ball down the field and throwing the ball in general as a team. So Nick Mullins is going to have to move. It's something he did a little better against Buffalo, but generally hasn't been very good at. His pocket presence has been lacking a little bit. He's going to have to, if there's room to step up, he's going to have to step up. He's going to have to navigate bodies around him and be able to throw the ball like that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely with you. And I mean, you don't get those mobile quarterbacks on this Niners team like Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Mullins. You're not going to find them anywhere. I mean, it's kind of like what we saw against Buffalo last week with Josh Allen. Like, his pocket presence and his ability to move in the pocket and get outside of the pocket when needed just dominated this game. And now, that's the Niners kryptonite right there. We got to make it the Washington kryptonite and get Nick Mullins out of the pocket. I mean, I would say the better example is the Eagles game where Carson Wentz, not even that mobile of a quarterback, had phenomenal pocket presence, got out of the pocket when needed, and balled out. And if the Niners can do that against Washington, then I mean, we haven't seen Washington go up against too many mobile quarterbacks this year. Not that I can think of right now. I mean, you got Lamar, which they kind of got blown out by. But yeah, man, you're totally right. Whenever you have a mobile quarterback, it's a major plus to your team. So I definitely think if they can have better pocket presence than they usually do, it's going to help this team significantly. So yeah, I'm totally with you on that for sure. You got anything else about the defense?
No, I think that we covered it all.
Yeah, for sure. We've hitting the hammer on the nails perfectly. So let's move on. Let's stick with defense. Let's talk about the Niners defense. And I want to hear what you have to say for this to start off, because I definitely think there's a lot that you could talk about right here.
Yeah, the Niners defense, one thing that they're going to do and one thing they've done really well all season, and I would say that drafting Javon Kinlaw has had a lot to do with this, is they're elite against the run. We talk about big people, but when you go Armstead, Givens, Armstead, Jones, Kinlaw, Armstead, Kinlaw, Jones, and then Kerry Hyder, that's 290-plus pound guys who dominate in the run game. They're difficult to move, and they do a good job of getting up the field. They've done an excellent job in the run game. So I don't think the Niners are going to have a problem like that. I think the two keys to the game is going to be based on two players. One is going to be Dre Greenlaw. Alex Smith, very good at checking the ball down, but it's not as simple as, Alex Smith just checks the ball down every play. He's really smart. He knows what's going on with the defense. He knows what he reads. He's extremely smart pre-snap, and he knows where to go with the football and when the timing of when to throw the check down to get a positive gain. That's why he's very efficient at moving the chains. So because he's like that, Dre Greenlaw is going to have to be fast, and he's going to have to be anticipating that step down and make good open field tackles, because he's the guy that often gets put in that situation. The other guy for me that's come along when Alex Smith has become quarterback is Logan Thomas has become a pretty solid tight end option for them. What the Niners do with tight ends often is they play a lot of zone defense too, but on third downs and stuff, they have Jimmy Ward take tight ends in man, or they have him covering the slot. Jimmy Ward's been doing an awesome job of that all year. This causes him often to be away from the ball and not being able to make plays because he clamps up his guy in man coverage constantly. He's going to have to continue to do that this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, those are very two minute things about this 49ers defense that they have to execute. And that's really kind of with my key, which I'll get into a little bit. But I mean, Dre Greenlaw, let's talk about him a little bit, because I mean, you look at the Niners linebacker cores, and the one guy that just screams out right at you is Fred Warner. But Dre Greenlaw is easily as important as Fred Warner, in my opinion. And he's definitely going to have a big role in this game, especially even like both linebackers, both in the run game, the pass game, because the Niners really just like to use their linebackers everywhere. And I think Dre Greenlaw, as you said, Alex Smith with Dre Greenlaw, that's going to be a very interesting matchup to see, because I think Dre Greenlaw has an easy chance of wrecking havoc against Alex Smith. But at the same time, Alex Smith could really flip that and wreak havoc against Dre Greenlaw, and it could be very bad for our team, obviously. So, yeah, definitely. I'm definitely with you on that about Dre Greenlaw doing that. As for Jimmy Ward and locking up the tight ends, you're definitely right. Logan Thomas has been really reliable for Washington this year, and I definitely think they're going to be targeting him a lot, because besides McLaurin, Washington's receiving core is pretty under average, below average, I say. So they're definitely going to be targeting the tight end a lot. I know a lot of teams with not so good receivers are going to be doing that. So Jimmy Ward's matchup against that is going to be very interesting to watch. Also, kind of adding on with Jimmy Ward, it's going to be fun to see him at strong safety again. And we'll talk about Tarvarius Moore in a bit at free safety. But my Niners defense key of the game is a bit more broad than yours, and that's locking up Terry McLaurin. And usually I would just say, like, I would usually like to keep it general and just say pass D, because the Niners, I mean, you really want to focus on all the receivers, but I'm focused on McLaurin because the Niners have not been able to lock up the big name receivers this year. I mean, you had DK Metcalf, ball out. Devontae Adams, ball out. Stephon Diggs, ball out. DeAndre Hopkins, ball out. I'll even put Devontae Parker on this list. He balled out against us, and Devontae Parker was guarded by Brian Allen, who is pretty bad, but still, man, you definitely have to get that number one receiver locked up. And compared to last year, the Niners have not been doing that. And you can blame all the injuries you want, but we're week 14. We're in reality. We got to win this game. You got to lock up your guy, injuries or not. So I definitely think locking up Terry McLaurin is definitely going to be a major key for the Niners, because I think Washington could target him a lot this game. And if he has the ball in his hands, he could wreak havoc. And adding on to that, the secondary last game struggled in general. They really struggled. I mean, Verrett really struggled. Sherman really struggled. Tarvarius Moore getting all those angles. I mean, it just looked really bad. Dante Johnson, I don't even have to go into that. You can just watch the video on my channel about Dante Johnson that I made from the stream clip. But yeah, the secondary has to have a bounce back week. And McLaurin going up against that, I mean, yes, he's worse than Stephon Diggs, and their receiving core is worse than the Bills, but Terry McLaurin is still one of the best receivers in this league, one of the best rising talents in this league. So you definitely have to pay pretty good focus on him and make sure to lock him up this game.
Yeah, that's right on. I mean, yeah, with Terry McLaurin, first of all, he actually reminds me a lot of Stephon Diggs, actually. That's who he reminds me of. But I just think that they're not going to be able to lock him up. It's about limiting what he does. They're not going to be able to keep Terry McLaurin to 33 catches, 25 yards.
Oh, yeah, for
They
sure.
don't have a guy who can do that. So it's about keeping him to 6 catches, 70 yards. And if you limit everything else, then you kind of limit their offense in general, because Alex Smith is not going to take a lot of chances. If he sees one-on-one on the outside, he's just not going to throw a go ball the way Fitzpatrick did, or the way Kyler Murray did week 1, where it was kind of backyard football. DeAndre Hopkins running out, I'll throw the out. And Russell Wilson did that with DK Metcalf. If he's in one-on-one, I'm just throwing to DK Metcalf. So I don't think that's going to be the case in this game. But I generally, locking up Terry McLaurin is a giant key.
Oh, did you were just saying real quick?
Did I lose you, or did you lose me?
Can you hear me?
No, you're cutting in and out.
Okay, wait, hold up. Give me 1 second. Let me.
Okay, you're back.
Nope. Okay. Yeah, Vish is frozen right now. I don't know what's going on, but
Am I frozen?
Okay, are we good now?
Yeah, I'm good. Because you were frozen for me. Was I frozen?
Okay, yeah, no, I just switched my Wi-Fi network. I don't know if that helped, but
yeah,
I think we're good now. Okay,
yeah.
Perfect. But I just want to talk about that point. I know I say lock up McLaurin, and I know it's definitely going to have to be a limitation. But the reason I say lock up is, I mean, you got to hold him to as little as you can this game. And I mean, if you can lock him up, that's going to be lock him up, like little catches, little yards, little everything. That's going to be crucial for our team. And I mean, he has had some weeks where he hasn't been targeted that much, hasn't had that much production this year. But most of the time, it's been a lot of production from McLaurin. You've been seeing like 7 receptions a game now. So I definitely think you're looking at probably limit him a little bit more than lock him up. But it still could very much happen this game. And it's going to be interesting to see what the game plan around McLaurin is. And even like Logan Thomas, as we just talked about, it's going to be very interesting to see what our receiver game plan is. We'll probably have Sherman on McLaurin, but the other guys, that could be very interesting. But I'm focused on McLaurin because the lack of being able to adjust to everything is very crucial. So, yeah, for sure. You got anything else on the Niners D?
No, I think that's right on.
Perfect. Let's just get into the last key of the game right now, and that's the Washington offense. And I know we've been talking about the run a lot. I can start this one off. We've been talking about the run a lot, and I'm going to continue with that running theme right there. Washington offensive key is getting a solid run game going. And in my opinion, the pass game is going to be decent for them. As we were just saying, McLaurin's definitely going to get a lot of targets this game. Probably going to get a lot of production. Logan Thomas as well. So I think they're pretty solid in the pass game. The run game, on the other hand, could be a different story. The lack of Antonio Gibson is going to hurt them significantly this week. Let's be real. Antonio Gibson is the best running back on that team, and they're going to have to adjust to that. Peyton Barber is no Antonio Gibson, and that's going to be very hard for them. And the Niners are definitely going to want to capitalize on that and make them throw the ball, just limit the run game to little to none. But if they can get that going and they can get that run game and the pass game going, it's going to be huge for Washington, because now you can use like every part of that offense that you want. J.D. Mckissick is the one guy I'm looking at right there, because he's been very active in the pass game this year, the running back in the pass game, a lot of checkdowns. And against Buffalo last game, I feel like there was a lot of checkdowns that we just could not capitalize on. Not necessarily to running backs, obviously to receivers, but still, those quick checkdowns hurt us last game significantly. And I feel like you could see the same with J.D. Mckissick this week. As for Peyton Barber, I'm not that scared of him as much as I would be for Gibson. But if he can get it going somehow, I know we got it going week 1 pretty well against Philadelphia. If he can get it going week 14 against the Niners, then the sky's the limit for that offense this game. So in my opinion, if they can get their run game going, screw up the Niners game plan, it's going to be massive for them, and they'll be able to win this game.
I agree. it's going to be a key for them to run the ball, but I actually don't think they're going to be able to. I just think that the Niners front is too big. It's too menacing. Fred Warner is too good. Jimmy Ward is so good when they have him down in the box based on what the offensive strengths is, and he's fantastic that way. I just don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. The key for me is that Washington's going to have opportunities to throw the ball down the field in this game. Alex Smith's going to have to be willing to pull the trigger. That's the key. If Alex Smith is willing to pull the trigger in this game, then the Niners might have a long day. Because we talked about, you brought up Dante Johnson, right? Dante Johnson is learning a new position on the fly. He didn't take any reps in the slot in training camp. He didn't take any reps. He's just been thrown into this spot, and he has to play the Niners slot cornerback. So that's one. The other guy is Tarvarius Moore, who a lot of Niners fans wanted to play when it's been kind of documented and clear that when he has played, he doesn't do the best job of executing the more simpler coverages. He makes mistakes and stuff like that. So
exactly,
I don't expect him to play a perfect, clean game in terms of doing his job the way Tartan Ward do, or even Harris to an extent, because he's not done that at any point in his career. So that means they're going to get shots and they're going to get opportunities. And I guarantee you, or I wonder, and I'm assuming that Robert Saleh's game plan is going to try and keep everything in, make them throw outside the numbers and down the field, kind of what teams have tried to make Jimmy Garoppolo do. And if Alex Smith takes those shots, because they're going to be there, then the Niners, it could be a rough game for them.
Yeah, and let's talk about that game plan real quick for Robert Saleh, because personally, he has not been doing the best job at that, in my opinion. Against Buffalo, I mean, just trying to do you disagree with that? Or
yeah, I totally disagree. I don't know what more you could have expected from him against Buffalo. You're throwing in a slot corner who's never played against three excellent receivers, even without Smokey Brown in Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, who's a superstar, and Cole Beasley, who's fantastic. You got a terrific quarterback against Josh Allen. You can't blitz Josh Allen, because if you blitz him and he runs, it's over. So you got to stay and play coverage. You have to play sound. And they were just kind of getting I don't know what more he could have done as a coach. I just thought it was just a horrible matchup for them. And Brian Daboll and Josh Allen are excellent. And sometimes excellent coaches and excellent players just beat you just because you don't have excellent players always on your team either.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a fair point. And I think the problem with that was what I was trying to say is it's just the Niners' inability to handle a mobile quarterback and just let them get outside the pocket and throw wherever they want. They haven't, I feel like, especially against mobile quarterbacks, and Alex Smith is not a mobile quarterback, by the way, mind you that. They've been able to throw. I mean, he's not as mobile as Josh Allen, though.
No, but very few guys are. But my question to you would be how many guys do a good job of actually restricting Josh Allen in the pocket? I mean, maybe the guys who play the New England style of defense, but what they do is they rush 5 and they play with great gap integrity, and they have corners who can lock up these receivers in one-on-one with bump and run Gilmore. And then in the Dolphins have Xavier Howard, and the Patriots also have J.C. Jackson, who's terrific. And the Dolphins have Byron Jones. The Niners don't have a guy who can match up one-on-one with any of those 3 wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely fair. And I'm kind of in the middle on that. I guess what I was trying to say is just just kind of limiting Alex Smith his options is what I was trying to get at. And I definitely think Saleh can do that. But I mean, it could just be my bias just saying, because I know Robert Saleh, I've been pretty frustrated with him not making adjustments, especially earlier in the season. I was really frustrated by that. And that's why I don't think he's going to be a good head coach wherever he goes. But yeah, I definitely see your point there. And I definitely can see them doing that and making sure that he can get limiting Alex Smith to his options as well. But let's talk about Tarvarius Moore, because he's going to be our safety for the rest of the year at free safety with Jaquiski Tartt out for the year. And my question to you is what he has so much more to prove. Obviously, he has a lot to do to make sure he can do this. Do you think he can succeed and become our safety of the future at free safety?
Yeah. I mean, technically the Niners don't play with a free safety and a strong safety. They often change who lines up in the post based on offensive strengths. And then they usually have whoever non-Jimmy Ward line up in the post in third down, just because Jimmy Ward is so good in man coverage. But I do think he could be. I mean, he has a physical profile easily to be a starting safety in the NFL. He's so fluid. He's willing to hit. He's very good. He's very fast. So he's got the physical traits. For him, I just think it's about reps, and hopefully he becomes better at communicating and becoming a better player in terms of executing his role in the coverages, knowing what he has to do and doing his job first. I mean, the problem with the running angles and stuff has been there since college, and he still continues to take one or two bad angles to the football. And, he's been deemed this playmaker in like amongst Niners fans. I used to read that in Twitter all the time.
Yeah, I've been seeing that all the time, man.
I don't know what defines a playmaker. Like a couple of times he's been in an opportunistic position because of how he's been used in the defense, just because he can't execute the stuff that Tart, Harris, and Ward do. So he's put in a more favorable position, maybe. And then one time against the Saints, he accidentally elbowed a ball out. So now he's a playmaker. But being a safety, you have to do your job first. And in this defense, your job is to eliminate big plays. And he hasn't done a great job of that. I think he has a physical profile to be the starting safety, but we're going to see in the next 4 games if he can improve on all the little details that Tart and Ward have been so good at over the years, but haven't gotten a lot of credit for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned those mistakes in game, those angles. And I mean, I wouldn't say they're rookie mistakes, but they're definitely something that if he wants to have a role in this team, if we want to let Tart go, which I think could very much happen. I know there was rumors during the draft last year where we wanted to trade Jaquiski Tart. Tarvarius Moore has to step it up. And I know he's been doing a decent job at that, but last game, really just exposed him and exposed his flaws. And he definitely has to fix that against Washington. And that's something, it's just going to be the minute details. I know you've been talking a lot about those minute details, which the average fan would not notice. But it's those details that he has to show on the field against Washington and the games moving forward. He just has to show that and ball out like that. And it's going to be very interesting to see how he plays, because he could have a massive role in this game, in my opinion, especially if they're, as you said about Robert Saleh, if they're not be able to limit Alex Smith's options, then Tarvarius Moore could be all over the place. So if that's not happening, then Tarvarius Moore, there's going to be a bigger microscope on him. They're going to have to pick on him. They might pick on him more, and he's going to have more of a role on this defense. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with Tarvarius Moore. And yeah, man, I'm definitely with you on that for sure. So you got anything else about the defense?
No, I mean, yeah, I think we really covered it all. We went through a lot of different things there, but yeah, you nailed it with Tarvarius Moore. His number one job is going to have to be to execute his job first, because if he does that, then I don't see very many ways that the Washington football team is going to be able to move the ball in this defense, if at all.
Yeah, and adding on to that, talking about ball movement, I mean, I think there was a solid 4-week stretch on this channel where I said the opponent's offensive key was just keeping the ball moving, because the Niners were not able to stop ball movement and constant ball movement. They always needed that time to adjust and do everything, get used to it. But if Tarvarius Moore and guys on that defense are able to stop that movement, it makes the game plan work so much more, because Robert Saleh, I feel like a lot of his game plan is just trying to stop that movement real quick, because I've noticed when teams just keep moving the ball to us, even if it's those short yards right there, just getting third downs, converting on third downs, short third downs every time, getting those yards ahead of time. I've noticed that the Niners struggle a lot. And if they can just stop the ball movement, then the game plan's executed better. And I know we've been talking about domino effects a lot on this episode right here. It's going to be another domino effect right there if Tarvarius Moore can execute those small tasks right there and ball out and succeed on this defense. So yeah, for sure. All right. Covered all the keys to the game. Let's move on to some key players. Vish, I want to start with you, because I know there's probably a lot of guys that you got. So let's start off with the Niners. You can just go for both sides. Just go for it. What you got? Yeah,
on offense, my key guy is Deebo Samuel. He's got to get the ball. I've been saying for a few weeks, on Grant's show and stuff, that the most important player on the 49ers offense, though he's not the best, George Kittle is, the most important player is Deebo Samuel. He's the guy that gets everybody going with his infectious energy, just his approach, his toughness, his physicality, everything he does. And this is going to be a game where Deebo Samuel is going to have to set first a physical tone for this game, because this is going to be a game that's won in the trenches, as a lot of football games are. And the other thing is that he's going to have to win the edge. And if he wins the edge, then Raheem Mostert starts running the ball more effectively, and Jeff Wilson starts running the ball more effectively. But it all
Another
starts
ripple
with
effect.
right. It all starts with Deebo Samuel. And then on defense, I mentioned him. For me, it's Dre Greenlaw. They're going to check the ball down a lot. Dre Greenlaw is going to have to react fast. He's going to have to trust his eyes, and he's going to have to make good tackles in the open field. And if he does that, again, I don't see how Washington's going to be able to move the ball against this Niners defense.
Yeah, for sure. And I got both those guys on my list. I have a fair amount of guys on this list because, I mean, it really starts it obviously starts at Nick Mullins and being consistent and being that guy we need to step up big time. Come in like the Raiders game, like the Seahawks game a few years ago. Got to be like that and got to ball out. So Nick Mullins, it always starts with him, and that's one of my offense key players. Other than that, man, I mean, Deebo Samuel, you just talked about him. I don't really need to go into that anymore because we've emphasized enough how important he is to both the run, mainly the run game, but the pass game. And it's, again, another ripple effect. If he succeeds, the offense succeeds, and everyone else on that offense succeeds. So Deebo Samuel, another guy. Ross Dwelly, I'm going to get him in there as well because, I mean, our run game is going to be crucial. The lack of Kittle is definitely hurt. And Ross Dwelly, he played pretty well last week, but can he do better? Let's see if he can do better. I'm going to put him as my key player. And then the entire offensive line. I mean, I stated this at the very beginning, and I'm going to keep stating this until especially the right side just gets their shit together. It's the pass blocking is just crucial, man. And, I mean, I'll bring up Bean's comment again. If this matchup is just a nightmare for this offensive line right here, man. And they got to step it up. This offensive line has to step it up, specifically the right side, specifically McGlinchey, whoever is going to start at right guard, because it might be a carousel again.
No,
I don't know. It's going to be McKivitz. Okay. Oh, yeah. Compton's out. I forgot about that. So, and I think Dakota Shepley got promoted to the practice squad. So, not to the practice squad, the active roster for the game. So we'll have to see what happens there. But Colton McKivitz is definitely another guy that you got to watch out for on this offensive line. As for the defensive keys, our lead pass rusher is probably going to be Kerry Hyder. He's been balling out, getting those speed rushing guys, getting to the quarterback the most out of any guy on this defensive line. So I'm going to put him there. Also, this is a guy that Grant talked about. I think it was your show with Grant. Eric Armstead he has been underperformed this year. And I know Grant's been pretty livid about that. And like he says, just got to step it up, get in there, and get to the quarterback. We got to get that 2019 Eric Armstead a bit more than that 2020. And if they want to get to the quarterback, get that pass pressure, Eric Armstead's going to be a big guy this game. So I'm going to put Eric Armstead on there. As for the secondary, I'm really just going to say all the cornerbacks because, I mean, they just got to bounce back from last game, really. And especially Sherman, who's going to be going up against Terry McLaurin. Jason Verrett probably won't have as big as a role. And then the nickelback could be Dante Johnson again. Could we see him struggle again? I don't know. K'Wan Williams obviously questionable right now. Hopefully he'll return, but we'll have to see about that. Last guy, Tarvarius Moore, as I kind of talked about already, as we kind of talked about, I should say, just getting those minute details and succeeding. It's going to, again, another ripple effect on this team. If he can succeed, the team succeeds. He's definitely another key guy on this team, so he's going to be a key player for the 49ers as well, for sure. Yeah,
that's all right. Pretty in-depth.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I just said that was pretty in-depth. Go ahead.
Yeah, all right, perfect. Let's move on to Washington's key guys. Usually I always have a few less for Washington because I obviously follow the Niners more, follow those minute details a bit more. But for Washington, again, all starts off with the quarterback, Alex Smith. And at this point, do I really need to put the quarterbacks on the list? I really don't, man. And it's just you got to have a good quarterback to win the game. You have to have good quarterback play to win a game most of the time. I mean, sometimes their defense will carry you. Other times, most of the time it won't. But, yeah, you got to have good quarterback play. Next guy, I got J.D. McKissick. They might run a lot of checkdowns with no Gibson. He's going to have a very increased role in this offense. For all you fantasy guys, DFS, pick him up this week, 4,900. That's a great value pick. J.D. McKissick could have a very big game. Going to have a very extended role in this offense. So definitely another guy to watch out for. Terry McLaurin, I've already talked about him enough. I'm not going to go into him anymore. So let's move on to the defensive guys there. I'm going to just say the entire defensive line because I know you talked about Jerome Payne right there. Obviously going to be one of the key guys. But Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, probably going to wreak havoc this game, in my opinion. We'll get to score predictions a little bit, but you'll see that in the score predictions. I think those guys could wreak havoc right there. And I got a quick question for you, Vish. Over under Chase Young, 2.5 sacks. What you taking?
Under.
Oh. All right. That's because I was on a podcast last night. We were all saying, oh, probably over. Maybe it's just a bit of an overreaction, but I think it could very well be Chase Young could very well wreak havoc. Montez Sweat as well could be going up against McGlinchey, and they put Young against Trent Williams.
Chase Young has 4.5 sacks this year. He's not like Nick Bosa from last year. He's not the best player on that defensive line. It's Jonathan Allen. He's the guy that's been getting a lot of the hype because he has an opportunity to be an all-time great player. And he is very good, but he's not as good as Nick Bosa from last year, in my opinion. He's definitely not that level. So I don't see a game where he's just going to come in and get 2.5 sacks. No, I don't.
That's fair. And I definitely think it really only happens if he's on McGlinchey. And I don't know if that's going to happen. They might put Montez Sweat on McGlinchey. And Montez Sweat could get 2 sacks if he's on McGlinchey. I don't know about that. That's probably a bit more a realistic prediction right there. But we'll have to see right there. Last guys I got, I'm just going to go with the linebacker core. They're going to help stop the run a little bit. They should be all over the place. I believe it's John Bostic, one of them. John Bostic. And then I forget who are the other guys are. Kevin Pierre-Louis. And then, we were just talking about this last night. I forget his name. But anyways, the linebacker core is definitely going to have to step it up this game in order for Washington to win and stop the run. So those are my Washington guys. What you got, Vish?
Yours is pretty comprehensive. It feels like you covered basically their entire team, saying their entire team. Yeah,
I kind of do that a little bit. I kind of like go over a lot of guys, but there's always going to be those few guys that always stand out compared to some other guys. So we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, man, what you got, Vish?
For me, on offense, it's going to be for Washington football team. It's going to be Logan Thomas. He's got to have a good game. I think he's the guy that's going to keep the chains moving. He did a good job against Pittsburgh. I think he should have to continue that momentum. But I'm really looking at the football team's defense. Again, I said him before when we were talking about keys to the game. Daron Payne is going to have a great game up front. He's going to have to really get up the field and penetrate. Same with Jonathan Allen, but Daron Payne, to me, is going to be the key for the Washington defense. And then the other guy is John Bostic. Playing middle linebacker against a Kyle Shanahan offense is really hard, especially in a game where with the pass rush, he's going to do 2 things. One, they're going to be very variable with their snap count, which means that sometimes they're going to snap the ball with 20 seconds on the play clock. Sometimes they're going to snap it against the 10. If you go watch the Rams game from week 5, Kyle Shanahan put on a clinic on how to do this with no Mike McGlinchey and no Joe Staley against Aaron Donald and co. He's going to do a similar thing that way. And then the other thing is there's going to be a lot of movement pre-snap to mess with the rules and the eyes of defensive players, especially their middle linebacker, John Bostic. He's going to have to play with eye discipline. He's going to have to just know his job and do his job. And that's the key.
Yeah, for sure. And let's talk about Bostic a bit more because his name was really just brought up on this episode until just now during key players. And you're definitely right about that. I know I said John Bostic just helping stop the run, but you definitely went more in depth with that. With that Kyle Shanahan offense, the middle linebacker always has such a key role in this game, and definitely, in my opinion, a bit more advanced role than the average coach you're playing. And Kyle Shanahan's going to pick on him a lot, and you're going to see him all over the place, John Bostic probably. So he's probably going to be all over the place. If he can succeed, then it's going to be very helpful for that Washington D, obviously. And if he's completely flopping, the Niners are just going to blow by the Washington D. Another ripple effect as we keep talking. That's been the theme of this. Like, really, you got that one guy at the top for the Washington D. It's probably John Bostic. And then if he's not doing well, then everyone else just falls down. Their performance is worse. So, yeah, definitely John Bostic. That's definitely a great name to bring up right there because he could have a major role in this game. For sure. All right. You got anything else about key players, about any sides of the team?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Perfect. Let's cap it off with a score prediction. So I want to hear what you got first. What's your score prediction for this game?
19-10 49ers. I think it's going to be low scoring. It's going to be grinded out. It's going to be defense. I think Kyle Shanahan will manage to get a few field goals in this game just by carrying that offense down the field. I think that Washington offense is going to struggle like anything to move the ball against the 49ers. It's going to be difficult. I mean, last year in the wet game, they were able to run the ball, but there were 2 reasons they were able to do that. One, Bill Callahan. That was the first game he had taken over for Jay Gruden, or second game. And Bill Callahan is a good run game coordinator and good with the offensive line. And the second thing for me in that game was that the Niners' run defense wasn't as good as it is this year. Fred Warner was a little worse, and they got bigger this year with Javon Kinlaw over DeForest Buckner.
For sure.
So I don't think the Washington football team's offense is going to be able to move the ball at all. And I think Nick Mullins is going to play a clean game. He's going to turn it over once, which is where I think the 10 points are going to come from for the football team. But otherwise, I think that it's going to be 19-10 Niners win.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely with you on the low-scoring game. I'm not with you on what the score is and who wins. Right now, I got 24-13 Washington. And it really comes down, I think Washington's offense has, in my opinion, a bit more of a chance than what you're thinking to have a successful game. You know, you got McLaurin, one of the top receivers in football this year, going up against a Richard Sherman who he's been, obviously you had that injury, but he's definitely looked a bit slower when he's been healthy this year. And it's definitely going to be hurt. It's definitely going to hurt us because I do think McLaurin's going to win that matchup. Also, another guy that we've been talking about a lot, Logan Thomas. I think that could very much happen this game where Logan Thomas gets a solid few receptions, balls out, and then the run game with McKissick, he could have a very big game. Maybe I'm exaggerating the difference of the score, but I definitely think Washington's going to win. It's going to be a low-scoring game, and I don't think the Niners' offense is going to score that much because, first of all, that offensive line, and like as we've been saying, the run game might not get it going. And as right here, I think it's Dawood is how you pronounce it. I'm scared for Mullins, honestly. Like, Mullins could struggle if that offensive line is not doing well, which I don't think it is really going to do well. Jonathan Allen could wreak havoc. Chase Young, Montez Sweat, probably all those guys could very much wreak havoc. So I definitely think it comes down to it's going to be a defensive-minded game, low-scoring game, and it really comes down to who can get in the trenches better. And I really think that I think Washington can do that, execute against the Niners offense, and win that game, and win this game, I should say. So it's going to be a close one, going to be a fun game. You got any final thoughts before we end the video?
No, I'm good. Again, thank you so much for having me on. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you had you on. If you just stay on real quick after, I just want to talk about a few things about the stream after with you. That would be great. But anyways, guys, for my viewers, hope you like the new background. I know I'm streaming on Twitter and Periscope, so make sure to follow me on all these places. Twitter right there, Instagram right there, YouTube in the top left corner. Before we go, also make sure to follow Vish on all these places at Vish Kumaran. Subscribe to Blake and Vish Sports right there. Great content there. Make sure to follow them. You saw how smart Vish is right here. He provides that same energy everywhere he goes. So make sure to follow him on all those places. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Go Niners.